Yes, hello. Welcome to the webinar. We appreciate everyone giving us their time this morning. Please, in the questions or chat box, if you're not able to see my screen or not able to hear me, definitely please give me a comment in the chat or question box. But I believe everyone should be able to see my screen and hopefully hear my voice. So this morning we are going to really focus on the Control4 driver. Right up top, I'll go through a quick kind of product overview for those who maybe would benefit from learning a little bit about the features and specs of the DoorBird. We'll take a quick tour through the products, the product line, the features, etc., including some of the peripherals like add-ons we have. Then we'll jump into the Control4 driver. We have the author of the driver, AJ Brunson from Syntegration, with us also. So he will be.
Yeah, hi, nice to meet you guys.
Yep, he'll be walking us through the driver, and then at the end here we will do a Q&A. We are going to leave the attendees on mute. Just reason being, with this many people in the webinar, we unmute the mics, we get feedback, etc. So please, kind of throughout the webinar as we move through, if you have questions, just go ahead and throw them into the question box, and we'll run them down, review them, and answer them as best we can. And then if there is a question we miss, we'll provide a way to kind of reach out post-webinar and ask that question as well. So DoorBird models, this is kind of the lineup of available DoorBirds. So in the lineup here, we have everything from single family to multi-tenant solutions and kind of form factor. And in aesthetic wise, we have kind of smaller footprint units as well as kind of the more substantial all metal units, kind of fitting whatever the application may be. So first stop here on the product tour, these are the D101 units. They are a smaller footprint plastic body. Quick specs here, 720p image, motion detector built in. There is night vision capability, so in a low light condition, it will click on 12 IRs to enable night viewing. These units are Wi-Fi enabled, so they could be hardwired in or work off the Wi-Fi. I see down at the bottom of the screen there some dimensions. So as you can see, it's a smaller footprint model. On the back of the unit here, there are terminal blocks, and this is one of the things where you see some differentiation between us and some of the other similar products on the market. So this terminal here is just where you would click in the RJ45 dongle. So this unit, as all DoorBird units do, support power via PoE. And so if you can get one network cable to the location, one CAT cable, there's your power, there's your network connection. So easy install that way. There's also a terminal that is a normally open relay that is triggerable via the app for something like a door strike. We have a lot of guys use these products for, well, actually all the products for gate control. So it's just a normally open relay. We have another terminal here for wiring in an existing chime that is also normally open relay, but instead of being triggered via the app, it's triggered via the doorbell push. Terminal here for wiring in third-party access control devices. So if there's an existing request to exit button, etc. And terminal here for wiring in the transformer. So with this unit, since you are able to power it, connected via Wi-Fi, if you wanted to do that and then add the the transformer that comes with it, you can install that way also. So moving on, these are the D21 models. So this is where we see the multi-tenant stations, as well as single family. So a lot of the features are going to be the same. So we'll kind of take a quick overview here and point out where they're changed. So the camera still 720, 180 degree field of view. The features here that get stepped up, obviously it's a larger unit, bigger footprint. You can see the dimensions down on the bottom. These are not Wi-Fi enabled. They do require a hardwired network connection. And you can see we'll see the connection on the back soon. Things that this one has kind of stepped up from the other one. There is an RFID reader built in for access control. It takes 64-bit 125 kilohertz credentials. The motion detector is also improved on this one, and you're able to configure it to detect direction of motion as well as distance. And then the other features really remain the same. With the camera and the night vision capability. This is a look at the D21 DKH. So this is a multi-tenant station. This is good up to 100 tenants. And as you can see here, it's got the keypad built in, which also can be used for access control. So if you wanted to create a PIN for, let's say, the UPS delivery person, so they can just let themselves in every time they come with packages, you can do that. Of course, arrows for scrolling through the directory and a call button. And the other features remain the same, RFID reader, etc. And so this is just kind of a rundown of the features that are common to all these D21 units. And we'll take kind of a closer look at these actually. So on the back here, the connection terminal block for all the D21 models is going to look the same across all, whether it be single family or multi-tenant. And this is just kind of a quick illustration of what that looks like. So this is the jack for your Ethernet connection, PoE and network. There are 2 bistable relays built into the back of the unit. So again, access control, gate, door strike, what have you. A normally open relay that will be triggered via the button push, the doorbell push. Third-party access control device can be wired in here, and then again the place to wire in the included transformer. These are a few of the accessories like peripherals available. So there is the I/O door controller, the 2-wire converters, the IP chime, and the PoE injector. So the I/O door controller is a networkable relay box. So once this is put onto the network, it can be paired with the DoorBird, and it will add relays that are triggerable via the app to the DoorBird app. So in the DoorBird app, you have access to the relays that are built into the unit. In the app, you can hit a button in a manual drop-down of available relays. You put this on the network, and these relays will populate in that drop-down menu. And they actually also work with the Control4 driver. So you put this box on the network, it'll also make these relays available within the Control4 driver. So let's say it is like a large estate, and there's a pool house, guest house, main house, a gate, and you need to go beyond the relays that are built in to the DoorBird. You add this box, and now you have more relays to play with. The IP chime, obviously not everybody carries their phone around with them all the time, so like the box, the chime will be paired with the DoorBird and can be landed throughout the house to alert to the family when somebody comes to the door. Maybe something to note about this box, it is not 100% wireless. It can be networked via Wi-Fi or a hardwired connection, but it does need to be hardwired for power. It cannot be powered via a battery. The 2-wire Ethernet PoE converters, these are actually pretty cool. What they will do is they will send power and network over just 2 conductors. So if you think about it like a video bail-in, but it's a bail-in for power and a network connection. So if it is a retrofit and there's the existing doorbell and there's just the 2 conductors for power from the original doorbell, you put one of these on either end and you put a PoE switch on the transmitting end, and you're able to send then the power of the network over just those 2 existing conductors. So they don't want to break open the wall. They don't want to run a CAT cable to the door. Not a problem. You can install DoorBird now using these 2 converters. And the gigabit PoE injector, probably something everybody's familiar with. Just really a standard PoE injector. Not much to tell about that. All right, I realize that was a very quick run through, but I just kind of wanted to give a high-level overview of the products and the specs in case there's anybody unfamiliar. Now kind of jumping into the what's probably the reason everybody's here. We'll hand it off to AJ and let him take a walk through the Control4 driver.
Okay, thanks, Andrew. And so yeah, we did develop the DoorBird driver. Let me. I'm going to share my screen. So, okay, can everyone see my screen? Andrew, can you see the screen? Okay, cool.
I am able to see the screen.
Okay, cool. All right, so when we made this driver, we went through all the feedback, the requests, the complaints, the suggestions of the old version, and we wrote this driver completely from the ground up. And so some of the new features that we added is we added a new icon to the security state. We added a silence mode. We added an easy event user action management area. We improved the SIP intercom support. We added in extra relay support for like the Door IO controller. And then we also added in a customer management area using the Control4 lock proxy. So I was going to kind of show you guys how it sort of works, and you know, we can ask questions and I can go through any of that stuff later. So the first thing is you'll notice there is now, I've got my iPhone launched up on the screen, and I have 3 DoorBirds on this project. I have a single button, a 3 button, and I have the new keypad with RFID reader. So one of the things is that if there's a motion detection event or if there is a doorbell event, the icon displays the correct status. So that's one of the newer features. The icon also allows the customer to trigger things about the DoorBird. So for example, if you guys look here, it says UI button single tap. This is what happens when the button is pressed one time. So you can either set lock unlock, that will trigger the relay in the DoorBird. You could set custom action, or you could set it to do nothing. If you set it to custom action, then you could go to programming and you could say when the icon has been single tapped, you could do something. For example, if you had in 2.10, you could use the navigation agent and you could say jump to the camera. So when you click the icon, unfortunately, the way the Control4 works is the jumping via navigation agent only works on T3 touchscreens and the Android platform for the EA class controller. So it doesn't work, unfortunately, for your iPhone. So that's actually why we left it out of this drop-down menu, is because we felt if we would have added it in, people were clicking on the button in the Control4 app or in the Control4 app on the iPhone, and it wouldn't work. So the second thing is a double tap. There's this new feature called Silence DoorBird for 2 hours. So if I have the DoorBird and I double tap it, then you get these little Z's next to it. And what that means is that the DoorBird will no longer trigger the announcements and Control4 programming and call group inside Control4 for 2 hours. This is great for like when kids want to go down a nap, if you have like a movie starting, something like that. The DoorBird app itself will still function. It will still ring when you push it, but just nothing will be triggered inside Control4. If you don't want to have that anymore, you can just double tap it and it'll go back to normal. So that is the silence mode, leading into the event user management. So as you can see, I've clicked on the single button here, and right here is my event management. When you drop this down, you're going to see all the events that this particular DoorBird we receive from this DoorBird. So we have when the relay is triggered, we have when the doorbell is triggered, and we have the motion is triggered. So if we look at, say, like this keypad DoorBird here, then there are a couple other options it can do. It has actually 2 relays. It has an RFID reader. So I've actually learned a key fob into this, and it's my fob. So I can do custom events when my fob gets pushed. You have different users. So like, for example, there's a user 9999 in this one, and that is a police code. So then in programming, I could say when user has entered and it's police, you know, trigger the lights, do something of that nature. It also has motion, it has doorbells. With these multi-tenant units, you could have almost an unlimited amount of doorbell options. And so they'll just list here as a doorbell. So that is the event management section. The next thing is that we did improve, like what Andrew was saying, we did improve the motion with the new DoorBird hardware. The motion detector is significantly better, so much so that we decided to turn it on by default. And it seems to work out really well. If you want to program something off the motion, you just need to select it, and here are your options. So if you can see here, it says we're going to notify composer. This means we are going to trigger the Control4 event when motion has been detected. So if this is set to yes, then that event will be triggered. In announcement, we pull the announcement agent, and so any announcements that you've created are just available right here. So you don't need to say when doorbell is pushed, grab the announcement, do all that programming is done simply by just selecting what you want it to do. So I have 2 announcements in this case, and so I would just say announcement. So every time there's motion, the doorbell sounder announcement would trigger. So the last thing is the notify call group. By default, it's either set to, oh, sorry, this is motion. So let's go to a doorbell. So if I'm looking at this doorbell, so right now we're not going to execute an announcement when this doorbell's pushed. We could say, let's do the doorbell sounder. And what call group? This is the call group that is going to, I guess, the call group of touchscreens that are going to be called. One of the biggest differences I think you guys will notice with this driver is we were able to get video doorbell preview up from 2 touchscreens up to 5 touchscreens. The catch is that they have to be T3 touchscreens. We're using H.264 video streaming, so it's a much better, higher quality video resolution. And in doing so, we were able to squeeze in an additional 3 doorbell, or I'm sorry, touchscreens into the initial doorbell call group. But if you didn't want, say, a particular touchscreen to be a part of a call group, you could create a call group under communications. It would show up here, and then you could select it when this particular doorbell event happened. And then the last major thing that we did with the driver is we created this thing called the user management area, and that is how you set that up. Is you add a door lock relay. And then under connections, you would bind that relay to under the DoorBird management proxy, you would bind that relay. And that will then give customers the ability to, when you're in the app, you could go to locks and sensors, and you're going to get this little arrow on the right-hand side of the interface. So then I could click on this, and it's going to show you certain things about this DoorBird. One of the this particular DoorBird is this button 1, and so it doesn't have a keypad, so there wouldn't be any users to show. But what it does give you, it gives you a live history that is persisted across reboots of the last 50 events that have happened in the DoorBird. So you can see here's all the things that have happened since I plugged this thing in. So you see I pushed the doorbell a couple times today, I've triggered the relays, I pressed the icon on the touchscreen, that kind of stuff. The other thing it gives you is the settings menu. And the settings menu allows the customer to kind of control some of the settings in the DoorBird. One of them is the doorbell. Let's say the customer just, I don't know, maybe he's having a party, maybe it's Halloween, and he just doesn't want to hear the doorbell. He could go in here and he could click off, and now that doorbell will not trigger in that home. If the customer wants, he can go back and he can turn this back on. There's other settings, save motion events to history. You know, if your motion detector is, say, like the older doorbell or DoorBird, the D101, the motion detector is going to go off every 10 seconds, 15 seconds roughly. So I guess in that sense, I would turn that off. We added push notification to the driver. Let's say the customer didn't have the Control4 app on their phone, or I'm sorry, didn't have the DoorBird app on their phone. You could turn on use push notification, and now the Control4 app will send them when the doorbell is pushed, things like that. So that's what using the push notification is. The customer can also edit and assign what happens when it's single and double tapped. So let's say they don't, you know, maybe they just wanted to unlock the door, custom actions. And if you guys in the future can think of things you would like the icon to do, we can definitely look at that and see if we can update it. It is just a list after all, and so if it's a simple macro that, you know, it seems like everyone would want it, we could always add it into this list. One of the other things that we did to the driver is we switched the default nature of the camera snapshot mode to live image. After logging into a lot of homes and seeing what does the icon tap setting override what is done in yes, they're in tandem. So if you change it here on this, it updates in the driver and vice versa. The camera snapshot, the previous version of the driver, it was set to last doorbell pushed. And the idea was that at any time you could look at your you could look at the camera page of the Control4, and you could see who pushed the doorbell last. The issue was, let's say your customer logs in at 2 in the morning to their home, they're going to see at 4 in the afternoon somebody rang the doorbell, so they're going to think for a split second that there's somebody actually at their front door. So by default, we have shifted that to live image. If you preferred the other way around, you could just switch it there, or obviously you could switch it in the driver, of course. Both cases will work just fine. So those are some of the newest settings for the driver. I know that was really fast. I wanted to give you guys time to talk about, you know, like what kind of questions you guys have, and so yeah, I'm going to start answering some of these as they show up. So allow the client to change the door chime themselves. So that, the door chimes would be different announcements. The way Control4 does chimings would be done through an announcement. So I guess you could create a whole bunch of announcements, one for each type. And then, yeah, we could probably add that in as an option. So that's actually a really good question, or a really good suggestion. Push notifications include the camera snapshot. Control4 is working on including something they're calling push notification attachments to the API. We thought it was going to be out. We thought it was going to be out in Control4 2.10.0, but Control4 didn't quite make it out. So as soon as it's up, we will update the driver and add in the ability to attaching the image to the push notification snapshot. So the lock proxy has nothing to, correct. The lock proxy is actually just it's a lock proxy. So just like how you would have a Yale door lock. So here, for example, I have a Yale door lock, right? You can't actually adjust any of the settings in your Control4 without that. So see this, how do I put this? So Control4 makes it so that when you want to edit the lock proxy adjustments, you want to add users, delete users, see the history, mess with the settings, you must add a door lock, and then you must bind it to that, and then that's what wakes up that this interface. So another real reason why we're using the lock proxy, and we're kind of foreshadowing into what's coming from, is because when you start going into some of the newer DoorBirds with keypads and RFID readers, you will now see a list of all those users listed here. And the eventual goal sometime this year will be that you will be able to add users remotely. So for example, if you have a customer in another state and they have a property manager or a contractor, they want to come out, you want to give them the code, you know, 4444 or something like that, you would be able to hit a plus key over here in the right hand corner, and that will then add the user automatically to the DoorBird, and you can now use that code to get into the house. So that is the main reason for the lock proxy. It is not required at all. It just gives the customer these extra things that they could do with the system. But you know, if you don't want to give them access to this section, you don't need to put in the lock proxy. So let's see here. I'm going to go through some of these questions that you got. Change names. When this calls T3, it is no, it is not limited to the 2 touchscreens. That's what I was explaining. We were able to bump that from 2 to 5. So there is a physical limit from the camera of 5. We've maxed that out as much as possible, but they must be T3 touchscreens. If you have even a single infinity touchscreen in that call group, the driver is going to realize it has to jump back to MJPEG, and we'll drop it back down to 2. So push notifications. Will the driver software work? Yeah, this is a replacement for all existing drivers. We made this driver work with 2.9.1. I know I'm showing it on a later version, but we purposely made this work with the older version of Control4. So you guys should have no problems using this driver from here on out. So, okay, so you guys are talking about the intercom buttons. Let me show you how those are defined. So when you look at the intercom interface, right, you have these 2 buttons here, custom button 1, custom button 2. So what we've done is, before we would turn these on automatically on the previous version, but what we were finding is a lot of people were just using this kind of like a ring. So there wasn't actually a door lock attached to it. So in order to show these, what you would do is you would select the DoorBird, you would go down here, and this is where you would define the actions for button 1 and button 2. So for example, for button 1 is typically the door lock. So let's see here, you want to do a custom action, do you want to do composer, do you want to trigger a door? Let's say you had a smart door, Yale door lock. So all you have to do is just pick a relay that you want to trigger. And now if you look, that icon is now shown. Gotta wait for, and so now it's shown. You can change the name here. You can do whatever you want there. So then I'm going to show the second one. The second one is the lights. So the light button. So you can either obviously do a composer event. You can trigger the DoorBird IR on the camera. That was the previous default version of it. Or we scan all the lighting scenes in the project. You know, maybe you have some cool, you know, doorbell announcement or, you know, trigger on the lights or something like that. So you could just say, okay, I want this lighting scene to work. Now you're done. That's all the programming you had to do. Whenever you add or, one of the last things you have to do is you have to refresh Navigators. When you modify any of this Navigator style button settings, you must refresh Navigators or obviously they won't see it. So we also moved, for simplicity, we moved the speaker and the microphone adjustments for the DoorBird into the intercom proxy. We felt that's really where it should have been the whole time, and not a system setting here on this main screen. So using as a gate controller, can you schedule relay to be open closed at specific times? Yeah, so for that, using a gate controller, can you schedule the relay to be open? Yeah, what you would do for that is you would just create a scheduled event. So for this case, this is from Timothy. So in this case, you would say, you know, like door unlock or something like that, right? And then let's just say, for example, it was today at, you know, this time. So then you could say, okay, when that happens, I want to open this relay. And then if you click this button, all the relays that are available would be shown. So if you had a door IO controller, all of those relays would also be shown. So in this case, this single button only has one relay. But if you look at this one has 2 relays, and so forth. Yeah, I'm going to be making this 1008 publicly available probably in the next day or two. It's 99% ready, but just I test about 100 times every single DoorBird that I have here before I release, and that just, it's going to take me a little bit of time to get that done. One of the main things that I have been working on with DoorBird has been to update the relay section. I know that in I think it was 110 of firmware, the relay notification stopped working. And then as you can see here, I'm on 112. 112 has corrected that, and our driver is kind of a complement to that correction. So I have a DoorBird running. Trey, on your question, because that's referring to a beta thing on Control4, email me directly, and I can work with you on that. I don't want to discuss beta-related stuff with Control4. All I can say is that yes, we are aware that Control4 is coming out with a Control4 app, and yes, the DoorBird will work with it. That's all I'm going to say about that. So Ron asked if I have 8 touchscreens, what happens? So in that case, the DoorBird will still try to call all 8 touchscreens, but you are going to get that where it's basically a black screen. And I kind of wanted to explain what's happening. So if you think about what SIP is actually a phone call. So you're actually saying, I want to call all these touchscreens. And so what's really going on is when you make a SIP call, you get a black screen, and then you have an answer and a hang up. And when you hit answer, then it accepts the video and pulls the video into the touchscreen. However, if you think about it, when you're doing a door, you don't really want to answer the phone. You want to see who's there and have the option to answer the phone. So what So what ends up happening is we tried to send the video to basically all the touchscreens out there. The problem is that the camera itself can only support up to 5 simultaneous connections to the camera. So if you have 8, what will happen is the driver will realize you have 8 and will automatically disable this feature right here, alternate camera. If alternate camera is off, you're telling Control4, hey, when there is a call made to this intercom, don't use the video that comes with the SIP call. So the SIP call must be established before the video comes through. Obviously, no one likes that. So if we can, we turn on alternate camera, which means, hey, when the SIP call comes, it doesn't really matter where that video comes. I want you to grab the video from this camera. And so that's how that works. If you still like the 5 touchscreen concept and you have 8 touchscreens, what you'll need to do is you'll need to create another intercom group called, maybe front door or doorbell, and you'll have to choose the 5 touchscreens that you want to have called, and then you'll have to manually turn on alternate camera, and then it'll work fine. Refresh Navigators, of course. So you must, unfortunately, Brian asked, can you use the DoorBird I/O controller without a DoorBird? Unfortunately, no. The DoorBird I/O controller communicates to the DoorBird. Our driver reads the DoorBird and then does all the actions from there. So as of right now, you cannot use the I/O controller without a DoorBird. Notifications. Okay, when turning on, so this is from James. When turning off the notification button on the C4 GUI, do we still create the programming, adding their cell, syntax? No, actually, you don't have to do anything. The driver, at Syntegration, you'll see a lot of our drivers. Here, I'll just jump to another one just so you can see it. You'll see a lot of our drivers have this use push notification thing. And what we did is we wrote an automatic push notification module for our drivers. So all you've got to do is just install the driver, and if push notification is on, it's going to try to send the push notification out. The catch is that you must have logged into customer.control4.com, and you must have enabled push notifications. For some reason, Control4 by default turns off all notifications for all users. I'm not really sure the reasoning behind that, but you have to manually go in. It's mentioned right here in the documentation. So you got to go into customer.control4, you go to my notifications, my devices, and then you enable. If you look here, these are the informational levels for the notifications. So a motion event, or the driver is turned back to normal, is considered an info level event. Alert level is doorbell relay offline. And we don't send a critical. I don't think there's anything critical about the DoorBird and why you would need to have that level of notification. If you want to do your own notifications, you're more than welcome to do that. You could always go here to push notifications. You could create them all and then do programming for them. But as you can see here, that you can probably see 4 of them already right here. These are the automatic notifications that are built from the driver. And so these will automatically update and modify for you. So 0 programming involved there. Let's see here. New driver is also for the older models. Yes. Yes, this recording is being recorded. Carlos asked that. Yes, automatic update will. Oh, sorry. So if you are using the old driver, you must install this new driver. The reason being is that we added some new proxies. Specifically, we added the experience button proxy and we added the lock button proxy. Anytime a Control4 driver's proxies are added or removed, the entire driver must be replaced. That's the whole reason the Sonos driver had to be replaced, and all these other drivers. Unfortunately, it comes down to how the device addressing works inside Control4, and there's just no way around it. That being said, this driver is incredibly simple to install. So I'll just show you how simple it is. So if we delete the one button, if I add the new one button in, it adds in. If you only have one DoorBird in the project or on the LAN, it will automatically scan and find it. If it doesn't, if you have more than that, then it'll give you a list. I have quite a few drivers here, or DoorBirds here, so I'm going to pick one. And then you will add in the username and password. So one thing you'll notice is I'm using 0002. It is incredibly important that you use 0002. You must, under no circumstances can you use anything else. There is an entire, and that's literally it. The driver is now installed. That is all you had to do to get the driver working. Just put in the username, password, and you are good to go. If you look here, we explain in the documentation how, let's see here, right here. What the differences are in the users. When a DoorBird is first sent out to a dealer, it has two users. It has a 0000, which is the administrator user, and then it has 0001. 01, user 1, is considered the homeowner. And user 2 is considered the third-party integration user. So any additional users should be 3, 4, 5, 6, so forth. The other thing you must do is when you log into the DoorBird app, and I'll show you guys that because we get a lot of service call questions about this, is when you are using the DoorBird app. So I am going to log in. I'm going to go to, okay, so I'm logged into the the DoorBird app. I'm going to go to settings. I'm going to go to administration, okay? And now I'm going to pick one of my DoorBirds. So in this case, I'm going to pick let's do that one button test. So when it logs in, you'll notice I have this second user. So if that user doesn't exist, you're going to need to add it. And so the things that you're going to have to do, or else the driver just won't work, is you must add a 002. You must put the word SIP, case insensitive. It doesn't have to be lowercase, uppercase. It just has to be the word SIP. And then you must go to permissions, and you must enable all these permissions. If you don't enable the permissions, then the driver will try to use this user, and you'll get kicked back a 401 error, API operator, stuff like that. But that's really all you have to do to get the driver working. So hopefully that, I think that answers that one. Yeah, answered that one. Oh yeah, we work very, very, Patrick asked if we get sufficient support from Control4 and DoorBird. We get a ton of support from DoorBird. Actually, there's whole things. So for example, when we first were using we were one of the first people to use the keypad DoorBird, and what we found is that when people would come up to it, they would try to press the doorbell button on it, but if you hadn't selected a doorbell, the button wouldn't do anything. So we actually had them code into their latest firmware a default doorbell action. Because what was happening is FedEx was coming to our office and they were hitting the button. Obviously, nothing was happening because you hadn't chosen a doorbell. So those are the things we can do. DoorBird is highly attentive to us and are what we ask them to do. And there's actually been quite a lot of modifications to their firmware to better cultivate a Control4 solution. Okay, so Greg asked, is there a laptop app or access the multi-unit DoorBird for editing users? As of right now, unfortunately, I think the only way to do the multi-tenant stuff is via the app. I'll talk to DoorBird engineering and see if there's because yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, especially if you're going to do like say 200 homes or 200 apartments, that is going to get really tedious. So next question, are there any adverse effects when answering the DoorBird? Somebody is trying to use the app. So the app will always take precedence over the Control4 system. So it's or the SIP intercom. So if somebody grabs the phone app, then that will actually shut off the SIP call. It will send a hang up and the call will end. So I think Jesse had asked that question. No, there is no way to update the DoorBird's firmware from the driver. We've talked to DoorBird a lot about that, and right now there's just not a feasible way to do it. We did a little bit of testing, and in the testing we did, honestly it caused more headaches than it solved. So how can you static? So one of the biggest things you guys will like about this driver is that we made it DHCP fully compliant. The Control4 can change IP addresses, or the DoorBird can change IP addresses. If either one of them realize the IP addresses change, the driver will automatically, behind the scenes, resync everything. So you don't have to do the static IPing anymore. Obviously, as a Control4 dealer, I would recommend it. You cannot static IP a DoorBird. You can only do a DHCP reservation. But we had lots and lots of homes where that wasn't the case, and they were breaking. And so the new driver actively scans the network to make sure that that doesn't happen. And if the IP address changes, the driver will automatically correct itself. Yes, the DoorBird does work with the wireless touchscreens. It works with all the Control4 touchscreens. It even works with the older Infinities, but you still are limited to the two touchscreen limitation at that point. Will the driver work with the multi-home DoorBird? Yep, it does. This is actually the multi-home version right here. So as you can see, I only have one doorbell pushed into this. Yeah, there's different users. So 8888 is a resident user. DoorBird 999 is a police code, and then all the doorbells will be here. Another thing about the multi-tenant is that SIP does not work across, and there may be guys who honestly are smarter at SIP than I am, but from what I understand is that there really isn't a way to have a DoorBird that is outside of the LAN connect to multiple SIP servers and push that info through. We had a dealer who was looking at doing like a multi-tenant DoorBird, and then they had like 30 or 40 homes, and they wanted to do a Control4 inside every one of those homes, and it communicate through the driver. And because the driver is local area based communication, it's not cloud based. So that is it's a blessing and a curse. The awesomeness is that it doesn't necessarily need internet. The downside is that you miss out on some of that push notification cloud stuff that you can do with multiple LANs. I know we have been working on with DoorBird. That is as much as I can really talk to you about that. If you have a job where that's of interest, send me an email. We'll give out our emails and stuff. My email is drivers@syntegration.com. You can, well, that actually goes to all of us here at Syntegration. And then we can obviously help you out and talk to you more about that specific project. Devices can push Franco asked if there is a limitation to how many devices it can push notifications to. I haven't seen a limit. If there is a limit, it would be a Control4 limit. So, I mean, there probably is a limit. I don't know what it is. I think the most I've tested was, I think, 20, and it worked fine. So wireless and touchscreens and/or app. Ed asked wireless touchscreens and/or app. Yep, it works on those. You can only use, in the Control4 DoorBird driver, you can only use 0002, period. In fact, you can't even use another one. The driver won't even let you. So the driver is actually available. Andres asked if the driver is available. It's available now. It's been out for about 2.5 months now. I think it's in over like 300, 400 homes now. So it's been running great. This driver, guys, is vastly superior than the previous version. And honestly, I wouldn't even, in fact, as of this morning, we disabled the ability of even using the old driver from here on out. We had it running because there was a H.264 bug with EA class controllers, but DoorBird in firmware 1.1.1 corrected that, and all the DoorBirds are on at least firmware 1.1.1.1. So that was the single bug that kept us still using it, using the old one. But that has been corrected, and so everyone could use this version. There isn't a cost associated, an additional cost, I guess, for this driver. If you have a DoorBird license purchased to a project, this new version will work just fine. There's no difference. There's no additional fee, no additional pricing. It's still the same price. Best way to update the firmware. Honestly, the best way is just to wait. DoorBird is the ones who actually push out the firmware, not us. They're the ones that determine who gets updated firmware. It's kind of like an Apple update. You can't make an update happen. You just get it when you get it.
Yeah, and if you do have a heads up that your firmware is a later version, for example, the current version is 1.12. If you check the firmware on the app and you do see that it is behind, we'll make our, I'll send out an email where you can contact me at. I can have our engineers push specifically to that device.
So Trey had asked, will the driver work with the PC Mac Navigator app? Email me directly. So I was under the assumption that Control4 was deprecating the PC Navigator app. It's a Flash-based system. I mean, I actually just tried to use it in Chrome yesterday, and it didn't even run. So I could only run it in IE. And, what good websites shouldn't ever run on IE. They should only run on Chrome. So it's kind of a little joke we have here. But, yeah, I'm 90% sure it'll work on the PC Navigator app because it's calling the MJPEG stream. I've not tested it. I'll definitely test it. But yeah, Richard had asked that question. So if you just want to send me an email directly about that, I can talk to you about that, and I'll do some testing as well just to make sure it is functioning on the PC Mac Navigator on IE. So Trey had asked if the 1008, the actual issue with the EA controllers hasn't really anything to do with the driver. It actually was a DoorBird firmware H.264 bug, and in 1.11 that was corrected. So any home currently that's on this driver, the EA bug fix should be corrected. Can you connect to a DoorBird off network? Secondary. Okay, so Jesse had asked, can you connect to a DoorBird off network, trigger events based on a DoorBird at a secondary home? I assume what you're talking about, Jesse, is that you want to have like a second home, and then if the DoorBird pushes on home 1, it transmits to the other home. Email me directly. I'm curious what the use case would be about that. But as it stands, the DoorBird driver is a LAN-based communication only. We're not using a cloud in any way, so I don't see how that would happen. Can you manually type in the IP address? No. One of the things we did is we use Bonjour to scan for the DoorBirds. And that is the only way we want to do it. The reason is because we're using Bonjour to validate the IP address. So the scan comes in from Bonjour. We look up the MAC address. If the IP address is different than if the old IP address is different, then we trigger the sync settings, and that's why we're really using Bonjour. And so this scan here is really just a Bonjour scan. So if you want to force the Bonjour scan, you can always click that. I believe it's once every 5 minutes. The scan goes through. So Chris had asked if there was issues behind DoorBirds behind a managed switch. No, that was fixed quite a while ago. I believe it had to do with VLAN tagging, and that has been fixed. I have it on multiple package. I've got it on a couple Ubiquitys. I know of some Cisco stuff. I'm pretty sure all that's been working on. Does the lock proxy only work on the app or touch panels? The lock proxy works on anything that's. This is going to sound very Control4-ish. The lock proxy only works on things that support the lock proxy. So Control4. The lock proxy works, I believe, on the T3 touchscreens. I'm not sure if you can mess with the lock proxy on EA controllers. I haven't haven't really tested it. But basically, we're doing the same thing like a Yale or a Kwikset door lock is doing. That's actually the interfacing that I'm using for it. So, I mean, if you can do it on a Yale door lock, you could do it on you can do it with this. So Ron had asked if there was a fee. I already talked about that. Nope, no fee, just update to the existing one. Somebody had asked if you have a DS Mini and a DoorBird, will they work together? Yep, you can have them both in the same project. Ed had asked about driver pricing. I'm not sure who's on the call here. I don't know if you guys are dealers or if there are some customers, but Driver Central is our distributor for all our drivers. If you guys sign in there, you can see the pricing and use the project portal to update, manage your licenses, all that. If any of you guys bought the driver at House Logics, we've already imported all those licenses into Driver Central. So if you just create a project and the license will automatically be imported directly into your dealer section. You don't need to pay. There's no charge. There's really the only reason we made this driver a quote unquote new product is because it has different proxies, and because of that, it's a new driver. But there's no extra fee. It's the same license. It's the same. There's no physical difference. So Patrick, you had asked about our comments and reviews. Email me directly. I'm not really sure what you're talking about on that. But yeah, I thought we allowed that stuff. Maybe I just forgot to hit the checkbox. Yeah, I just want to be really real clear. You do not need to purchase an additional license to use this driver. This driver will work 100% with all the old licenses. The job just has to be on 291. It will not work on 290 or older. There were some JSON packages that were installed in 291, along with some lock proxy stuff and some, well, actually just a whole bunch of stuff in 291. So you got to be on 291 at minimum, but that should support everyone that has the driver previously. And so that should be good there. Greg had asked about the Adobe Air thing. Yeah, I'll fire up my Mac, the dreaded Mac that I have, and then I will test the Adobe Air version. Honestly, I apologize. I don't know. So let's try that. Let's go to security. See the camera live. James had asked, with this driver, you're able to go to the security C4 GUI and see the camera live as well as your house cameras. Yep, yeah. Let me show you what I'm. So if we go to, all right. So we're gonna go here. We're gonna hit the settings button, go to cameras, and they're all gonna be there. And I have tape over all of them. On mine, so on all the cameras, and then these top two cameras I'm doing testing for some other product. But yeah, you can click on it, and there's the camera. You'll notice also there were 4 buttons. There was a request that we give you guys some like buttons that you can do like stuff. I think the coolest thing I heard of was somebody had programmed button 1 to turn on and off the sprinklers. So that was kind of funny. So in that case, if you wanted to do that, you'd go to programming, you'd select your DoorBird, and then you would say, okay, when camera button 1 is pressed, and then he actually did toggle the sprinklers. So I guess his neighbor's dogs were peeing on his yard or something like that. So, just one, Julian had asked 1 license per project. Correct, yeah. All drivers that we sell are per project base. We validate off the MAC address and some other things, but yeah, it's 1 project. So if you have a 1 DoorBird or 100 DoorBirds connected to a single job, it's just 1 license. So all our, Sean had asked, do we offer support? Yeah, all our support is handled through Driver Central. You know, it's so here's their site. It's help.drivercentral. Dylan is actually the driver ninja. A lot of you guys have talked to him. We know him quite well. He's been through Control4 certification. He is. I don't think there is a DoorBird out there that he can't make work. So if you guys have any questions, go there. He can help you out. We're available from 8 to 5. If it's not something that he knows, he can always elevate it to us. It's more than just me doing drivers now. There was for a while, there was just me, but now there's a few of us doing it. So we're a lot more intended to getting back to you guys and faster. And also that's why you guys will see a lot more drivers coming from us over the next couple months. So Keith had asked about the speaker volume, increasing the distortion. We're currently working with DoorBird to increase the audio quality from the SIP call. I've noticed that it's a little staticky, and we're trying to isolate where that's coming from. I don't know if it's an audio acoustic package that needs to be installed or something like that. But I know that currently we're working on it right now. Enrique had asked if the DoorBird goes offline, is there a way to know? Yeah, actually, if the DoorBird falls offline, so the DoorBird checks the driver checks for the DoorBird every 5 minutes. If it does not check in for 10 minutes, then it will actually flag an alert. It'll send a push notification to at the alert level. To everyone that the DoorBird is offline. So, setup. On the setup, do we have setup the proxies or the main? Oh yeah, so this is like the main area of all the notifications. You really shouldn't have to mess with any of this stuff other than just on this main screen. The only time I think you would ever be in here is if you wanted to adjust the mic or speaker. And adjust those, or maybe adjust the verbiage of the button label. That's pretty much all you'll do. In fact, even if you were to go to, say, like the camera, there's all of this is pre-populated and pre-loaded by the driver. And then the DoorBird and the DoorBird management, there's really nothing to even see there. So yeah, all the settings are done here. Yeah, everybody, this is being re-recorded, or this is being recorded, so you guys can always watch it later. If you guys have any questions, I'm sure you guys will. Don't hesitate to, call us or email us. I will. Here, I'm going to send out my. So that is my email. Actually, that's our email here at the office. So that will go to us, and you guys can ask questions. Can you still bind actions from the light using the light? Using the light. But I haven't seen it in this one. Okay, so when we very first released the driver, Trey had asked, can you, and correct me if I'm wrong, Trey, but you had asked if in the previous version of the driver, we had the ability to trigger the IR light illumination coming on. It's by default, it was in some different areas, but we did add that in, I believe it was 1003, 1004, something like that, the version. If you look here under the button 2, it's there, right there. It is also right here. It is now it's a triggering action that you can do. Okay, Trey, just send me an email if you don't mind. Obviously, if I forgot something from the old one to the new one. Oh, I'm sorry. He's talking about the key. Okay, so yeah, let me go back. All right, so let's go to this 3 button. So now I'm here. I'm going to click on. Let's get this back up. Okay. Okay. So when you click on the relay, let's go to the DoorBird. I'm going to go to the 3 button. So now if I'm here, there's this key lock, right? So the key lock, when you hit it, is going to try to trigger these relays. If you and I'm on version 1.12. This did work on 1.09 and 1.10. It was lost in 1.11, and it's coming back in 1.12 from the firmware. Sorry about that. They had sent that out a little bit faster than I planned when I was doing all my testing. So, but if you hit it, you'll see now that DoorBird 1 has been triggered. And so if you click here, you can do those events. You can say, okay, when relay 1 is pushed, what do you want to do? Well, in this case, we want to toggle the Yale Smart Door lock, which is the front door. So that's what's going to happen there. And so that does work. So, okay, I think that is it for today. Andrew, do you have? I think we're good.
Yeah, and AJ, I definitely appreciate you collaborating with me on this. I know there were some kind of DoorBird specific questions at the top of the question list, and there are probably some more. So what I did is I put my email address in the chat box. If you'd like, since we are at the end of the time here, if you email me the questions or even just your phone number, I'm happy to call you back and go through questions for you. So in regards to the recording, and actually on these questions, I'm going to put together these questions, work with AJ to try to put on paper the answers to these questions regarding the recording. I'll send out a follow-up email to everyone in attendance here that will have a link to the recorded version of the webinar. And again, any questions from you, definitely feel free to reach out via email, send me your phone number, and I'm happy to call you back. And yeah, hopefully this was informative. Again, thank you, AJ, for putting this together with us.
Hold on one second. Sorry, Keith brought up something very, very important I wanted to talk about. Okay, so he was saying that when he looks at the, when he goes to the touchscreen and he goes to the lock settings and he clicks on settings, and it shows this really weird, like it kind of looks like it half works on the Android app. This, let me see here, this screen here, when you go to the Control4, and it works 100% on the iPhone. But if you were to go on, say, an Android device and you were to click on this and then click settings, you would see like save motions to event, and it would say text or something like that. And that it's actually a verified bug in Control4. Control4 knows about it, and they're actively working on it. I got confirmation about a week ago that they are working on fixing Navigator to apply. We're using some pretty advanced stuff in the custom settings for the lock proxy, and Control4 just, honestly, I don't think just realized that you could do everything we're doing with it. And so they hadn't taken into account a couple of those settings. But they are updating it. Unfortunately, I don't know a time, and I don't know how long when they're going to fix it. I'm guessing it's going to be relatively soon. So I wouldn't anticipate that being too long. This menu, the settings menu, looks best and works best from an iPhone. So the other interfaces, the settings page, unfortunately, just doesn't look really all that great. It's a Control4 XML loading issue. So that's what that is, Keith. So I think okay. I think yeah, Andrew. I think that is done. I know there was a couple questions there at the end, but we can send out emails for those directly.
Yeah. So. Yeah, we'll definitely send out answers to all the questions. Again, if they got skipped over for whatever reason, I did hold off on some of the DoorBird questions, just wanting to focus on the Control4 questions, knowing that time's limited. So I will definitely answer every question that did head our way regarding DoorBird, and you got my email right there, so feel free to reach out, and we will follow this up with an email with a link to the recorded webinar. And yeah, I appreciate everybody tuning in, and hopefully this answered a lot of questions. And thank you, AJ.
All right. Well, thanks, guys, and have a great day. Thanks, Andrew. See ya.
Thanks. All right. Bye.